Powered by Riverside.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome into a brand new episode of the Broken Wheel Bearing Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Codd, this evening, riding solo, first time in a long time, as my co-host Jake Belts unfortunately could not make it with all of you this evening. Sorry about last week's episode. Unfortunately, we were unable to record due to uncertain circumstances at the moment. But kind of a good week to kind of miss was last week at the Chicago Street Course because listen, we had two back-to-back road course races on the schedule. We had Chicago, we had Sonoma, and then we had a repeat winner in Shane Van Gisbergen. So this evening's episode obviously is going to be a lot about Shane Van Gisbergen and is he the new face of NASCAR on road courses? After the last 2 weeks, it's very, very, very difficult to sit there and disagree that he is not the new face of NASCAR on road courses. We're going to dive into that a lot during this episode. Again, if you're listening to us live on Facebook or on YouTube at the Broken Wheel Bearing Podcast, right now I think Facebook we're having some technical difficulties. That's why it took us a little bit while to get up and running on the live stream because I was screwing around with Facebook a little bit. But if you're listening to us live, again, our Blown Engine chat line wide open for you to talk to us during the episode or myself, excuse me. All you got to do on YouTube and Facebook, all you have to do is just go to the comment section, enter a comment, it'll pop up on our chat board, and we will definitely discuss on air with you on your thoughts and opinions. Again, this episode this week, last week we missed it. We're going to be blending two shows kind of in one in regards to the Chicago Street Course and also the Sonoma race weekend this past weekend out in California. So loaded show with all of you as well. We have fast headliners courtesy of jski.com. Like I said, a couple topics coming out of back-to-back road course races. Then we're going to be discussing a little bit about the in-season tournament. We had 2 weeks of the in-season tournament. We are now down to the final four as we head into the Monster Mile at Dover. Looking forward to discussing that with all of you because I think we had some unusual candidates make it into the final four. Primarily coming out, we have 3 Toyotas and 1 Chevrolet, which is absolutely insane to think about. And the Chevrolet is not the driver you would think of. It's not even the driver I even thought of, but it's the little engine that could. So we'll talk a little bit later in the episode about the in-season tournament. And then, of course, we have our Dover race picks this weekend, courtesy of Stats All by DriverAverages.com. So sit back, relax. Like I said, looking forward to talking to all of you after missing last week. Let's jump in right away to our fast headliners, courtesy of jski.com. First headliner this week coming out of jski.com. NASCAR is considering a return to Chicagoland Speedway next year. There's been a lot of hints that they'd probably be going back to Chicagoland. NASCAR likes the Chicago market. There's no confirmation the contract with the Chicago Street Course was up after this last 2 weeks ago, excuse me. We knew that they wanted to stay in Chicago. I don't think the mayor of Chicago ended up coming to an agreement. I know after this past season's race, he kind of talked to a lot of people within the community and said, we would love to have you guys back on the street course, but we would like to have it on a different date. I don't think NASCAR is okay with that. I think NASCAR wants to move somewhere else with the street course. Kind of ran its course at Chicago. It's been fun. It's been, like I said, it's been really fun over the last couple of years, but I think the time is up with it. And especially with the rumors of them pretty much locking the deal with San Diego starting in 2026. But NASCAR does not want to abandon that Chicago market whatsoever. And do you blame them? Probably not, because Chicago is one of the top 3 markets in this country between New York, Chicago, and LA. Obviously, New York and LA are 1 and 2. Chicago's number 3. NASCAR sees this as an opportunity. Well, what's interesting about Chicagoland, which to me, I'm not a nostalgia guy. I kind of am over it. I don't think we need to bring back Chicagoland, but a lot of fans like the idea of this just because of the fact of how great Kansas has been over the last couple of years in the next generation car. Chicagoland is a little bit different. It's not the identical track to Kansas. It's a 1.5 cookie cutter track, Chicagoland, but at the same time, it's not a straight backstretch. It's more of a curved backstretch. And a lot of fans have been barking up the tree the last couple of years saying, hey, look, Chicagoland, before they ended up losing their race date, they have always put on a good performance. Why not bring the cup cars back? And I think last year when I asked this question on the Broken Wheel Bearing podcast Facebook page, if you could bring back one track from the dead, what track would that be? And a lot of the answers were Chicagoland because of the great racing at Las Vegas, at Kansas. So I think NASCAR is starting to hear what the fans want. I truly do believe that it's going to be an easy transition considering the fact that they own Chicagoland. And it also makes it easier too with NASCAR not having a contract in place for the Chicago Street Course in 2026 with them going out to San Diego. So our update number 1 this week from jski.com, NASCAR considering a return to Chicagoland Speedway as soon as next year. Update number 2, Joey Logano will be making his 600th career start at Dover. 600 career starts. I mean, dude's only 34 years old. Or be turning 35, this year. It's incredible how he's still so young with that many starts under his belt. That was update number 2 this week. Update number 3, Hendrick Motorsports will be partnering with Atlantic Data Security. They will be a cybersecurity they'll be sponsoring as a cybersecurity provider as a new technology partner with Hendrick Motorsports. Update number 4 this week, Advanced Auto Parts. We're usually accustomed to seeing them on Ryan Blaney's car. Well, this week, Advance will be sponsoring Josh Berry at the Monster Mile. So you'll see the black and gold Advance colors schemes and the advertisement on the Wood Brothers 21 car. And I'm going to tell you right now, it's pretty interesting because Josh Berry has had over years past, we really saw the Wood Brothers kind of have the Motorcraft Ford sponsorship, and pretty much that was it. But I got to give them a lot of credit with Josh Berry. I mean, he's been very good with sponsorships in 2025. I know that's kind of a temporary Penske fourth charter. I know that's the running joke. It's not really. But Advance will be sliding over to Josh Berry, which, again, like I said, has had multiple sponsorships in 2025 and a lot of good-looking cars throughout. Next update, Catherine Legg, who was just in our race at Sonoma at the Toyota Save Mar 350 this past weekend. She'll be pulling double duty at the Brickyard in a couple weeks. She'll be running the Xfinity Series race on Saturday, and she'll be running the Cup Series race on Sunday. So for everyone who just likes a good driver, it's a driver to look forward to and watching, Catherine Legg, she'll be doing double duty at the Brickyard in 2 weeks or next week. Yeah. So that's pretty much all sponsorship updates. Again, all courtesy at jski.com. Follow them on X, Facebook, or web at www.jski.com. So let's transition into basically our double duty race weekend or back-to-back race weekends on the street or on road courses. So I think the theme tonight is going to be a lot about Shane Van Gisbergen and how a lot of fans personally believe that NASCAR has a Shane Van Gisbergen problem on road courses. Look, I'm not going to sit there and say that Shane Van Gisbergen in my mind is really good on ovals. I've actually have been pretty massively disappointed on him with the ovals in 2025. Starting to come around a little bit, but necessarily we knew where his damage was going to be in, and that was going to be road courses, the street courses, and all that type of stuff. Last weekend, Shane Van Gisbergen in Chicago pulled double duty. So we all knew kind of that it was pretty much Shane Van Gisbergen's world, and we were just going to live in it in Chicago. He ended up qualifying on the pole, ends up in the Xfinity Series race, not the Cup race. In the Xfinity Series race, Shane Van Gisbergen qualified on the pole, pretty much dominated the whole race, ended up winning. On Sunday, McDowell ends up qualifying on the front row, ends up pretty much, in my opinion, in the first part of that race, did a really good job of keeping Shane Van Gisbergen in check. Unfortunate situation once again with Spire Motorsports. I don't know what's going on with them. They do have race winning speed or race caliber winning speed. And it's always something mechanical with Spire Motorsports. Michael McDowell, I thought, had a really good strategy at Chicago. I thought he did a really good job. And I think, to me, he was really the only driver that could give SVG a run for his money. But ended up having mechanical failures, typical Spire. SVG basically got his only competition out of the way and ends up winning the race in Chicago. So he had the Chicago sweep. This weekend, and I think a lot of fans were concerned about this, going, well, here we go again. It's a road course. Shane Van Gisbergen once again. I picked Shane Van Gisbergen the last 2 weeks on the Brooklyn Wheel Bearing Podcast Facebook page to win both at Chicago and Sonoma. At this point, for me, with Shane Van Gisbergen, he's an automatic home run slam dunk pick on a road course until proven otherwise. And what do I mean by that? Well, we've ran 4 road courses already in 2025. Circuit of the America, which he was competitive in, ended up having an issue, I believe, in that race. Then we ran the Mexico City road course, completely ran away with that. No competition whatsoever. Then we go out to Chicago. McDowell gave him a little run for his money in stage 1. But then once again, once McDowell got out of that race, the race was pretty much a lock. This past week at Sonoma, Shane Van Gisbergen led 97 laps. 97. The race only ran 110 laps. Again, Shane Van Gisbergen ended up winning this race on Sunday at Sonoma. Chase Briscoe finished second. Chase Elliott finished third. Michael McDowell finished fourth. Christopher Bell finished fifth. Tyler Reddick finished sixth. Ty Gibbs finished seventh. William Byron finished eighth. Joey Logano finished ninth. And Kyle Busch finished 10th. Your stage 1 top 10 was Chastain, SVG, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., William Byron, Chase Briscoe, Ryan Blaney, Ty Gibbs, and Chase Elliott. I'm sorry, I'm missing one. Ty Dillon. Your stage 2 top 10 was SVG, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Bubba Wallace, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Chase Briscoe, Ty Dillon, Chris Buescher, Ryan Blaney, and William Byron. Again, I just mentioned, and again, all these stats are courtesy of NASCAR.com. The final box score, of course, is from, that's where it's from. When I look at the final race stats, not just did Shane Van Gisbergen lead 97 laps, here's who else led laps in this race. Chase Briscoe led 2. Michael McDowell led 3. Christopher Bell led 1. Chastain led 4. Kyle Larson led 3. That's it. That was it. In reality, to me, when I look at this box score as well, it does not tell the full story. I always say, let's not box score. Let's not read the box score, and that's that. Briscoe leading 2 laps. Yeah, he started second in this race. And to be honest with you, he may have probably led the 2 laps when SVG went down pit road. McDowell, same thing. Bell led a lap, same thing. He ended up leading that lap while a lot of drivers were pitting. Chastain led 4. He had a different strategy than what SVG, his teammate, was using. He ended up staying out for the stage points and the stage win, which was, to me, a good get for Chastain, who did not have race caliber winning speed. They did not qualify well. Chastain ended up qualifying in this race. Oh, I'm sorry. He started 4th. Excuse me. Rephrase that. Chastain qualified 4th, but again, he early in that run in the first part of the race, just was not up to par with the other top 10 cars. And then going outside the box on the strategy, going for the stage win, kind of screwed him up, got him put him in the back of the pack, and kind of got stuck back there. And then when I look at Kyle Larson, he led 3 laps. Again, he led 3 laps by staying out while the rest of the field pitted. All stats courtesy of NASCAR.com. Final box score. But like I said, going back to what we saw from Shane Van Gisbergen, and we kind of heard Adam Alexander say at the end of the broadcast, he basically said it like this. He goes, an ass whooping of the ages by Shane Van Gisbergen. And it's been like that the last 2 weeks. A lot of fans, and yes, I get it. To me, he's been semi-disappointment on the ovals. I thought he'd be I feel like he'd be improving a little bit more than he has been. Because last year in the Xfinity Series, I mean, he's had his moments on ovals. This year in the Cup, not really there. And yes, there's a lot of fans that going, oh, he can only win a race on a road course. Well, I'm going to say this. And I'm going to stop everybody from that's talking shit about, oh, all he does is win on road courses. Shane Van Gisbergen was brought in by Trackhouse Racing pretty much after his Chicago Street Course win in 2023. I've talked about how innovative Trackhouse Racing is. Justin Marks, one of the best young owners in NASCAR. He straight up knew that NASCAR was changing routes and changing the schedule to more road courses. That win at Chicago Street Course identified that, hey, look, we have clearly a championship caliber team at Trackhouse Racing. A year before that, they saw Chastain go to the Final Four. So they do have championship caliber equipment. They knew the schedule was going to be changing into more road courses. It looks like NASCAR is always looking for more road courses. Why not bring this guy over and go net ourselves multiple road course wins a year? Why not? And for all the fans that are complaining and crying about how, oh, all he does is win on road courses and all that type of stuff. Well, guess what? That's what he was brought in to do. And what Justin Marks and Trackhouse Racing were hoping for was that he runs away with the road courses, and then that puts him in the playoffs. Hopefully he stacks up enough wins where he has enough playoff points that maybe he makes around the 12. And if they get into the round of 12, we have the Roval. The Roval is in the round of 12. So realistically speaking, folks, we could see Shane Van Gisbergen possibly in the round of 8. We could possibly see him in the round of 8 in the 2025 Cup Series playoffs. Right now, he's got 3 wins. He could technically bomb out in the first round and still have enough points to transfer him into the round of 8 or 12. And we still have Watkins Glen to go, where last year he almost won that race. Buescher ended up making a great move. Buescher ends up winning the race, but SVG almost won that race last year at Watkins Glen. You could be looking at a driver that has 4 Cup wins going into the 2025 playoffs. And I get it. Everyone's complaining and crying that, oh, all they are is on road courses and all that type of stuff. Again, this is what you did. You brought in a driver that was talented enough to net you those road course wins. I don't care if they're on road courses or ovals. Guess what? I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen's got, 3 wins this year. He's got 4 total career wins. He's put a Trackhouse Racing car in victory lane 2 more times more than Daniel Suarez has. And Suarez has had more time. And Suarez, according to everyone, is good on ovals. Again, the point for Trackhouse is to not just put cars into the championship for or make deep playoff runs. It's also to transfer data to within the other teams of the organization. I still say to this point, if Trackhouse Racing is to win a championship, it's going to have to be through Ross Chastain this year, and then possibly Zillage in a couple years, because we already know Connor Zillage is coming up. But why not have the ability of Shane Van Gisbergen go into a deep playoff run? Again, if they get that car, I think he's safe. If he ends up having a terrible round of 16, I still think with 3 wins, he's able to get into the round of 12. Unless he just DNFs. But if he finishes 25th, and 25th, and that's a tough, listen, that is a very, very tough first round of the playoffs. You have Darlington for the Southern 500, that's back. Gateway week 2 and New Hampshire week 3. 2 of those tracks are heavy braking tracks. So maybe Shane Van Gisbergen might be able to come up with a couple top 20s. If he comes up with a couple top 20s, I mean, he should be secured to make the round of 12. And again, with the Roval in the round of 12, anything can happen. I feel confident with Shane Van Gisbergen going to the Roval and winning that race. And in the round of 8, let's call it as is. The massive wild card in that round is Talladega. You don't need to be good on ovals at Talladega. I hate to say it, you just don't at this point. You need to be lucky. There could be a legit opportunity for that 88 car maybe to make the Final Four. There is. I still think he's safe with 3 wins on points going into the playoffs. But I also do need him probably to get one more win. And if he gets the win at Watkins Glen, in my personal opinion, I think Shane Van Gisbergen, you might be seeing him in the round of 8. I truly do believe that. And again, this is what Justin Marks brought this guy over for. We hear it all the time with colleague racing, trophy hunting. Well, guess what? Trackhouse is trophy hunting. SVG now has 4 career wins in Trackhouse equipment. Chastain's got 6. Right now, and Suarez has got 2. So as an organization within 4 years? They started in 2022. So 22, 23, 24, 25. So within 3.5 years of Trackhouse being an organization, they got 10 organizational wins. They're averaging, look what they're averaging almost like 3 wins a year now as an organization. Or excuse me, 4. 4. This was the whole point of bringing Shane Van Gisbergen over. And I know people are pissed. And again, if you're pissed about Shane Van Gisbergen, come on in and chime in at the Blown Engine chat line. We're wide open. But to go back to the whole, well, does NASCAR have an SVG problem? They don't have an SVG problem. NASCAR has a road course problem. NASCAR loves road courses. And, I hate to say this, for a while, there was a lot of drivers that single-handedly dominated road courses throughout the history of the sport. You've always had drivers dominate road courses. Before SVG, who was it? Well, it was Chase Elliott. There was a lot of road course races that we went to in NASCAR. We were like Chase Elliott. I mean, we had Chase Elliott. I mean, Reddick was good for a stint, right? 2022, Reddick was good. Reddick was good on road courses. I mean, Shane Van Gisbergen was good on road course. Before Shane Van Gisbergen was probably Reddick, and then it went to Chase Elliott, and then you probably had Martin Truex Jr. was a road course rainer, kind of. Even back in the early 2000s, you had Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon. Or you went to a road course race. I mean, it was one of those 2 guys going for the win. Robbie Gordon's another guy that comes to mind as well. When you have a special talent for that, no, will that win a championship? No, because the championship race isn't held on a road course. But guess what? That brings in sponsorship money. When your car is running in first place, guess what? There's a lot of eyes on that sponsor. And this past weekend, we had Red Bull on the car for Shane Van Gisbergen. To me, NASCAR has added a ton of road courses. Teams need to learn how to adapt to it. They need to learn how to adapt. And guess what? Trackhouse Racing has adapted. Even though everyone complains about it, Trackhouse adapted. They were innovative. They were forward thinking. They knew that the schedule was going to change. They made a change on their third charter and grabbed probably one of the best road course racers we have seen enter this sport in a very long time. Again, is it a championship caliber decision, championship caliber move? No, it's not. But at the same time, I could see this car going to the round of 8. I could. 3 wins already in the bank, with a 4th probably creeping up at Watkins Glen. Then you go to the Roval in the round of 12. There's your round of 8 answer right there. Courtesy of NASCAR.com, Shane Van Gisbergen, for all the haters out there. Yes, he is right now, he has 3 wins, 4 top 10s, 3 top 5s, 3 poles, 3 DNFs, 208 laps led. His average start is 25.3. So a lot of those, all those poles have come on road courses. His average finish has been elevated to 21.85. It's been really good back-to-back weeks. And to be honest with you, it kind of stemmed at Atlanta, in my opinion. I know he spun out, but he had a really good run at Atlanta. So for all the fans that are complaining that he's not really caring about, circles and ovals and all, he's not that good enough. Listen, I mean, he's improved. He is improving. And he's been improving. He's been improving in the draft. Let's call it as this. He has. I'm excited to see, like I said, with the heavy braking zones, such as some of these tracks coming up. We'd love to see the 88 car more competitive on those tracks, especially in the first round. I do like him at I do like him at Gateway. I do like him at New Hampshire, not to win the race, but get top 20s. All this dude needs to do is get top 20s, survive in advance, and you're in the next round with the Roval on deck. Speaking of former road course reigners, my topic number 2 coming out of Sonoma this week, Chase Elliott. And when I've ripped Chase Elliott a lot on this podcast, and I'm a Chase guy, actually. Like, I'm a Chase Elliott fan. I think Chase Elliott is a very, very talented driver that has still never figured out this car. And a couple of them have not figured out this car. He's not the only one. But for me, with Chase Elliott, he has not figured. I think he's starting to figure it out now. I really do. Chase Elliott on Sunday finished this race in 3rd. Chase Elliott in this race had really, really good long run speed. I thought that, for me, it was a really, really good idea for him and Alan Gustafson to come down pit road to go get tires. And quite frankly, I thought the 9 car probably had more of the advantage at the end of the race over Shane Van Gisbergen. Chase Elliott unfortunately made a mistake in those closing laps, and he got caught up in dirt that was on the course, and ended up sliding back. He ended up losing a position to Bell. He ended up recapturing the position to Bell again. So he ended up finishing his race in 3rd. But you heard Steve Letarte. He was coming. He was legitimately coming up through the field with those fresh new tires. Unfortunately, one mistake with the closing laps. I mean, now if he doesn't get into the dirt, I'm interested to see. He probably gets around Briscoe, probably going out of this short chute. Probably gets Briscoe, and then he's got 2 laps left to chase down Shane Van Gisbergen. And to me, I thought he probably would have chased down Shane Van Gisbergen. Probably would have gotten either really, really close, or we would have had a photo finish at Sonoma coming out of the hairpin turn. But it's not what Chase Elliott, to me, has done at Sonoma that has been catching my eye. I think I called him out a lot on this show. But I think it all started at Martinsville when I called him out. But to me, Chase Elliott has had really good speed over the last, I would say, probably month and a half. Probably since Kansas. The 9 car has finally showed up and has had race caliber winning speed. And like I said, it started at Kansas. It did. Unfortunately, he ended up having a pit road error at Kansas, which ended up fading him into the field, and that was the end of the story. He was in the lead and he was competitive. It wasn't they didn't all pit and all that type of stuff. He was competitive in the lead. The Brad Keselowski caution at Kansas kind of screwed him up, because then after pit road, he ended up getting penalized. And the whole thing was, if he kept Larson in dirty air, I think that he probably would have won that race. He ended up finishing 15th at Kansas. He finished 6th at Charlotte at the Coke 600. Again, starting to get momentum and starting to get speed. Nashville Super Speedway, he had a really off week. I don't know what happened with the 9 car that week. And then at Michigan, we saw the speed that he had when he was in the clean air in the front of the pack. Ended up going off of a weird strategy at Michigan. But then all of a sudden, like I said, I mean, it was weird. He ended up getting the lead, and then they ended up pitting like when the whole field pitted like 2 laps before under caution. The next caution flies out, and then Chase Elliott pits. And Christopher Bell and Adam Stevens basically said the same thing. Like, what is he doing? But since that point in Michigan, the errors have kind of calmed down on the 9. The team has kind of settled in. They've made some really good adjustments, in my personal opinion, with that car. And he's had a really good 5-race stretch. He finished 3rd at Mexico City, where he had a podium finish, whatever. Finished 5th at Pocono. Had good long-run speed as well at Pocono. Unfortunately, though, the car ended up fading at the end of the race. Won at Atlanta, where he looked probably the most competitive I've seen him look in this next-gen car. Probably since Talladega 2022. Ended up finishing 16th at the street course. He ended up having damage. He ended up having to come down pit road and all that type of stuff. But then he finished 3rd at Sonoma. Right now, to me, Chase Elliott looks like the best Hendrick car over the last 5 weeks. He has been the best Hendrick car over the last 5 weeks. Bowman has been inconsistent. William Byron, it seems like something they need to figure something out. And Kyle Larson, since Charlotte, has been in zombie mode ever since. And I can't believe I'm saying this after, earlier this season with Chase Elliott. But yeah, Chase Elliott, to me, has been the best looking Hendrick car over the last month and a half. The pit road errors have finally stopped. The decision making has been elite with him and Alan Gustafson. Chase Elliott has gotten very angry and has been vocal and is acting like the driver I think we've all finally have been waiting to see. At Chicago, what do we see? He ended up getting in that wreck. Started yelling at his spotter, Trey Poole. He's like, you got to let me know. You cannot just sit there right. I need to effing know when the car in front of me is crashing. That's what I'm interested to see where does Chase Elliott go from here, because this summer stretch has been really nice, and this is when we start kind of elevating, and we kind of start seeing when champions start rising through the season. Anyone can start off hot. A lot of drivers that start off hot usually cool off. Chase was consistent throughout the first part of the season. Now we can talk about the consistency. He's got the win at Atlanta. And everyone goes, well, he doesn't have a 20th or worst place finish. And that's still true to this day right now. He has not finished below 20th in the Cup race this season. But if you're a Chase Elliott fan, I think what you need to be more excited about at this point is the fact that he has 4 top 5s over the last 5 weeks. 4 top 5s over the last 5 weeks and 1 win. You're starting to see this Chase Elliott kind of transition into a driver that you're going to be like, okay, he might be a problem coming down the stretch. After Atlanta, someone said to me, they were like, or you heard Adam Alexander said, did the sleeping giant wake up? Jake and I talked about it after Atlanta. Did the sleeping giant wake up after Atlanta with Chase Elliott? I would say no. I still need to see one more victory. But I'm going to tell you right now, the way he's driving, we're probably going to get a victory from him very soon. Very soon. We have Dover coming up. We already know how Hendrick Motorsports is down there. He's got 2 career wins. We got the Brickyard. Last year, he qualified very well. He had a stupid penalty coming out of pit road that kind of bombshelled his day. Iowa, he finished 2nd last year. The Glen, we talk about Shane Van Gisbergen and another road course and how great he's been on road courses and all that. Well, at one point, Chase Elliott owned that owned Watkins Glen. At one point, Chase Elliott owned Watkins Glen. And honestly, to me, the way that he drove at Sonoma, yeah, he's kind of figured his car out now on road courses. Richmond, he's usually good in the summer race, but again, going down to one date, the data, the analytics, I'm interested to see what happens. I'm not going to crown him like really good at Richmond just yet, but in this, he's usually has a higher hit rate in the summer compared to the spring. Daytona is the finale, and we know how good he is on restrictor plates. Again, if you're a Chase Elliott fan, I'm looking at this schedule coming up, and I'm looking at my lips going, we might see 2 to 3 more. We might see 2 more wins coming out of the 9 if he continues driving the way that he does. According to NASCAR.com, Chase Elliott in 2025 at this point, average finish is 10.2 with 7 top 5s, 7 top 5s, 11 top 10s, 1 win in 20 races. He's got 136 laps led in those races. Need to see more laps led though. That's my only thing. The other thing too, average finish 10.2 in 2025. Awesome. His average start 16.55. They are still not qualifying well enough. And at Atlanta, at Daytona, at Talladega, you can get away with that. But if you want to win races, you have to qualify much better than your 16.55 average finish or average start. You have to. The problem is that we know how this car acts in dirty air. And that's the one thing with Chase Elliott. I feel like AG and 9 team and that group have not yet given him an opportunity to start out front and just go for gold. Maybe one time, and that was at Martinsville this past season. Note number 3 I have coming out of Sonoma, and I kind of briefed on him a little bit, and that's Kyle Larson. And I think it's time we talk about Kyle Larson and the 5 team. Usually a driver that I never would think to talk this way. But Kyle Larson, something is off with the 5 right now. Something is really, really off with the 5 team. Yes, he's got the 3 wins, and in those 3 wins, he absolutely looked sensational. Homestead, Bristol, Kansas. No doubt about it. Looked incredible. But after he pulled the double, Indy and Charlotte, he wrecked out of Indy. He finished 37th at Charlotte. He wrecked out of that race. The switch has been flipped in the opposite direction. The following week, he finished 8th at Nashville, which was a really sensational day considering the fact that he qualified like in 27th. He finished 5th in Michigan in the fuel mileage race. We definitely probably expected more. But then ends up wrecking at Mexico City. Finished 7th at Pocono, was never really a factor in that race. And to be honest with you, I read he finished 7th when I was looking at my data this week. Finishing 7th at Pocono, I don't even remember him being a factor in that race. Then Atlanta finished 17th. Chicago Street Course finished 13th. And this past week at Sonoma ends up wrecking with Ryan Blaney coming into the short shoot. I don't know what it is. And every driver, in my opinion, in NASCAR since 2022 has gone through the ebbs and flows of their career. They just have. And what do I mean by that? I was just talking about his teammate Chase Elliott. Chase Elliott had a weird situation up at Watkins Glen back in 2022 when Kyle Larson won. Chase Elliott wasn't the same that season. Won the regular season points championship, but it was never the same. Winning Talladega that season is what got him in the championship for. Kyle Busch, 2023, right? Ends up winning 3 races, redemption tour, all that type of stuff. Then the flip basically switched to him being mediocre to average, and it still is to this day in this 8 car. Oh, but this season with Kyle Larson ends up having 3 wins going into the All-Star break. Looks like it's going to be another Kyle Larson season. One of those sensational Kyle Larson seasons. Then ends up pulling the double. I don't know if he was pissed at what happened with the double in Indy and Charlotte or what happened and all that type of stuff. But, 8th at Nashville, respectable considering where they they qualified. Fifth at Michigan. Okay, we got into a fuel mileage situation. But then, like I said, Mexico City, not his fault. Pocono, just never a factor. 17th at Atlanta, 13th at Chicago Straight Course, 35th at Sonoma. And I think a lot of people this past weekend would have expected Kyle Larson to be way much better at Sonoma. Extremely much better. He didn't even qualify that well either. He started 11th. This was the reigning race winner in the Cup Series, was Kyle Larson last year at Sonoma. Again, got caught up in dirty air, kind of went on off strategy of Shane Van Gisbergen, led only 3 laps, he led 3 laps, but he was on old tires. And once Shane got around him, I mean, it was gone. It wasn't even competition. I'm not panicking just yet with Kyle Larson. I'm not. But it is a little bit of, it's starting to get hot. It's starting to get hot. It's starting to get warm. It's starting to get hot. And like I said, it's starting to become a little bit concerning that he's been non-existent. We're not used to seeing that out of the 5. As I was saying with the 9, the 9's starting to get hot at the right time. The 5 has completely cooled off. And I'm going to ask the audience tonight with Kyle Larson. I know we got Larson fans, and I know that, oh, well, he's still the best racer. I'm not discrediting that he's still not one of the best, probably the best racer in the circuit right now. What was the last race that you watched that you said, wow, Kyle Larson legitimately was a massive factor in this race? I mean, it was Kansas. It was Kansas. Like I said, 5th in Michigan, 8th at Nashville. Yeah, they look good on paper. But were they legit? Was he one of those drivers that you looked at and go, yeah, he's going to run away with this race? Maybe I would say Michigan just because it was fuel mileage, but it wasn't dominating like Kyle Larson. And I think that's the one thing I will take away from this episode tonight, and I hope you do too. Kyle Larson is so good that when he has a rough stretch like this, I go on air and I'm going, what's wrong with Kyle Larson? We're not used to this. He's got 1 top 5 and 3 top 10s in the last 8 races. A lot of drivers would do whatever. A lot of drivers would pray for that. Kyle Busch would be praying for that right now. So it's not all doom and gloom. And I will say we do have a lot of tracks coming up that could change the course of Kyle Larson's season starting this weekend at Dover. We know how good Hendrick Motorsports is at Dover. He won the Brickyard last year. Iowa, he wasn't really last year. I think at Iowa, I think he got caught up in someone else's nonsense. Watkins Glen, he's won it multiple times. Richmond, he's won it multiple times, and he just forget about Daytona. But I guess going into this point in the season, what I need to see out of the 5 and Kyle Larson is this. A, if you have race winning speed, go win the race, obviously. But if you don't, I need to start seeing top 10s. I need to start seeing top 5s. I need him to start being Kyle Larson again. Right now, it's not looking pretty. And especially if you're a 5 fan, and especially what you've seen out of the 9 lately. Which is crazy to say that the 9 is the better out of the 2 of them over this stretch of races. But it's true. According to NASCAR.com, Kyle Larson, his stats up to date. He's got 13.8 average finish with 12.2 average start, 854 laps led. So again, not concerned. He is in the front of the pack a lot of the time. Over the last couple of weeks, he has not been, but he will put that car up in the front. 2 DNS, 1 pole, 9 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and 3 wins in 2025 so far in 20 races from Kyle Larson. So those were my 3 final points coming out of Sonoma. Again, it was massive Shane Van Gisbergen discussion. Like I said, back-to-back road course races. I wanted to discuss that. And then, of course, the two drivers that caught my attention, Chase Elliott and Kyle Larson this past week. But the other thing that's really interesting, too, and I know we haven't been on air. We weren't on air last week, but we are on air this week, and we're combining both weeks. We're in this in-season tournament right now. And I don't know for all of you listening to us live, but this has been absolutely remarkable. And kudos to NASCAR for doing this. I love what they did. And I will continue beating the table about that. But yes, Jake and I talked about the round of 32 together. We missed the round of 16. The round of 8 happened this past weekend at Sonoma, and we're going into the round of 4. So last week at Sonoma, the matchups were Ty Dillon versus Alex Bowman, John Hunter Nemechek and Erik Jones, which, hey, shout out to Legacy Motor Club there. 2 drivers facing each other in the in-season tournament. That's really cool for an organization that hasn't won a race this year. And I'm reminded, right, in the beginning of the season, I said, what do I expect out of Legacy Motor Club? It's just to get better. It's just to get better. And then, like I said, in the round of 8, 2 drivers facing each other in the in-season tournament because of consistency. So, job well done by Legacy with the Nemechek and Jones matchup. Then we had Ryan Preece against Tyler Reddick, and we had Ty Gibbs, Zane Smith. So for the longest time, Zane Smith was ahead of Ty Gibbs in this race. I thought Zane Smith was going to pull it off. Ty Gibbs ended up winning that matchup. He advanced to the round of 4 at Dover. The Preece and Reddick matchup, this one got pretty good, actually, in my opinion. This one got good. Reddick, we know, is a good road course racer. Ryan Preece is not. But Ryan Preece did a very good job of making it a lot closer, I think, on Reddick than I think Reddick was expecting. Reddick still finished higher than Preece in the race, so Reddick advanced, but job well done by Ryan Preece. Like I said, I talked about the Legacy matchup. Nemechek finished ahead of Erik Jones. Nemechek goes on to the round of 4, but this is the storyline I really want to talk with everybody about. I said after the race at Sonoma, gotta give cred where credit's due, man. Ty Dillon, the little engine that could, the Cinderella of the bracket, man. The Cinderella of the bracket, Ty Dillon. How did Ty Dillon make the round of 4, by the way? Well, round 1, he ended up beating Denny Hamlin. Hamlin got caught up in that wreck. At Chicago, he ends up beating Keselowski. He was the first driver to lock his advancement because Keselowski ended up DNFing in Chicago. Then this past weekend, Alex Bowman for a while was ahead of Ty Dillon. He was ahead of Ty Dillon. At the end of the race, Ty Dillon ended up finishing just ahead of Alex Bowman. So your final 4 going into Dover this week in the in-season tournament, if you're going to the race, enjoy this because in-season tournament, your final 4, Ty Dillon versus John Hunter Nemechek. And then Tyler Reddick against Ty Gibbs, excuse me, not Joe, Ty Gibbs. So when I look at this, 3 Toyotas, 1 Chevrolet in the final 4. The Chevrolet is probably the least expected Chevrolet out of all of them. I mean, I look at what Ty Dillon has done. I think beating Alex Bowman this past week was kind of like, whoa, what? Like, okay, now I got to sit there and go, you know what? This is like the George Mason run in the NCAA tournament back in 2006. Or the St. Joe's run back in 2004. I'm like, it's Ty Dillon. Like, is the Cinderella story going to continue? I would give me the Cinderella story going into Indy at the Brickyard. Ty Dillon making it into the championship in this bracket. I would absolutely love it. And to me, I mean, I will say this. I think John Hunter Nemechek has had really good speed over the last month and a half. Legacy has been really good. They've been really, really good. Erik Jones has been elite, or he's been a very good driver over the last couple of weeks where he's back up in the points almost. I think he's at 18th right now. But when I look at Ty Dillon and John Hunter Nemechek, like I don't want to see either one of these guys lose. And I'm like, damn, why couldn't they flip the bracket? But I think what I like about this matchup though is I do believe that Ty Dillon's got a legit shot. I really do. I think Legacy is an upgrade over Colleague right now, but I don't think by much. So I think that I would love to see Ty Dillon pull this off. I really would. I know Jake laughed at me when I said Ty Dillon over Brad Keselowski going into Chicago. I'm sticking with my guns. Little engine that could. Give me Ty Dillon to upset John Hunter Nemechek this week. In the other bracket, Reddick and Gibbs, I am going to say Ty Gibbs. I think Ty Gibbs upsets Tyler Reddick. I think Gibbs upsets Reddick. Dillon upsets Nemechek. I think going into Indy in-season tournament, Gibbs, Ty Dillon. I would love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to go in on the chat line. Let us know who you think. Like I said, I got Ty Dillon and Ty Gibbs going to the championship in this bracket going into Indy. All right, so that's pretty much going to wrap up our road course discussion over the last 2 weeks. We're going to follow that up with our NASCAR Cup Series standings after 20 races. Again, this is not the playoff standings. This is just the standings from. This is the overall standings. So let me just take a look at something. Sorry about that. Okay. Standings coming out of Sonoma. William Byron right now currently is your points leader, followed up by Chase Elliott, who's in second. By the way, Chase Elliott has now shrunk William Byron's lead in the points down to 14. So Dover could be a really interesting race for this Hendrick group. Kyle Larson's in third in points. He's minus 44 behind Byron. Fourth right now, Tyler Reddick is in points. Fifth is Denny Hamlin. Sixth is Christopher Bell. Seventh is Ryan Blaney. Eighth is Chase Briscoe. Ninth is Ross Chastain. 10th, Chris Buescher. 11th is Joey Logano. Alex Bowman sits 12th right now. Bubba Wallace is 13th. Ryan Preece is 14th. Kyle Busch is 15th. And AJ Allmendinger is 16th. We go with the playoff points. If we go with the playoffs right now, Ryan Preece, Kyle Busch, AJ Allmendinger slide out. Austin Cindric will be in the playoff points. Same with Josh Berry and Shane Van Gisbergen. So in regards to playoffs, your three on the cut line right now would be Preece would be below it, Kyle Busch would be below it, and AJ Allmendinger would be below it as well. So, all right, that pretty much wraps us up with the road course discussion. Before we close out tonight's show and segment, let's give you some Dover race picks this week. I will post Jake's on Sunday. But for this week, let me give you 3 picks I like going into Dover. Pick number 1 this week, I'm going to do it. I'm going to Chase Elliott. I'm actually going to go with Chase Elliott right now. I think that, first of all, according to driveraverages.com, Chase Elliott, he has the highest average finish among active drivers in the series and since 2022. At Dover in 3 races, and he also has 1 win, 2 top 5s, and 2 top 10s. He has led 6.1% of the laps at the Monster Mile. With the way this 9 car has been going, now if they could just get him to qualify within the top 10, this might be over. It might be over if he gets in the top 10 in qualifying. I like Chase Elliott. I've talked about him in this episode. I think he's been the best Hendrick driver over the last month and a half. He's really good at Dover. We already know that. He's got 2 career wins at the Monster Mile. I like Chase Elliott a lot. Chase Elliott, to me, is pick number 1 this week. Pick number 2, I'm going to go with Denny Hamlin. Hamlin's been quiet. I think this is a perfect slot for a Denny Hamlin victory on Sunday at the Monster Mile. Since 2022, he's got 1 win in 3 races, 2 top 5s, 2 top 10s, but he's led 17.3% of the laps, according to driveraverages.com. That 17.3% of laps led, according to driveraverages.com, is the highest laps led percentage among active drivers in the series, according to the website. So I like Denny Hamlin because of the fact that he gets his car in the front, holds onto the lead, and leads a ton of laps. Denny Hamlin had a good week, or was really good at Pocono. Feel like he let a win slip away to Chase Briscoe. Last 2 weeks, he's been inactive, non-effective, all that type of stuff. But we're back on ovals again. We are back on ovals, and I really like Denny Hamlin. Again, I think a driver that was kind of catching is starting to pick up his stride as well, going into the road course nonsense. I like Denny Hamlin this week on the oval. Give me Denny Hamlin for driver number 2. Final driver this week. Let's go with a dark horse. That's right. Let's go with the dark horse. I'm going to go with. Give me Eric Jones. Give me Eric Jones as the dark horse this week. Right now, according to driveraverages.com, his average finish is 13 flat in 2 races. Remember, he was hurt, I believe, he was hurt in 2024. Corey Heim drove the car last year. He's got one top 10. He hasn't led any laps at the Monster Mile, but that 13 average finish, which puts him among the top 10 in average finishes at Dover in the next gen car. Excuse me. He's 11th. He's 11th among active drivers in the next gen car and average finish at Dover. So I've talked about how good Legacy has been over the last couple weeks, over the last couple months. I don't expect Eric Jones to win the race. I expect the top 10 though. I do expect the top 10. I like Chase Elliott. I like Denny Hamlin. I like Eric Jones this week. So. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps us up this week on another episode of the Brooklyn Wilbury podcast. Appreciate everybody who's tuned in, listening to us on Facebook Live and on YouTube. Appreciate all the love, the support. Monster Mile. Unfortunately, this show won't be down there. Multiple things happened where we can't make the show or make the drive down to Delaware this week. Really bummed about that. I was kind of hoping to do Pocono and Dover this year, but unfortunately, our Dover plans got cut this week. So, but if you're going down to the race, be safe, have fun. If you're watching it live, or if you're going to watch it, enjoy it wherever it is. With all that being said, hope to have Jake back with us next week here on the Broken Wilbury podcast. Thank you for everyone tuning in, and we will chat with you next Wednesday night at 8 o'clock. Have a lovely weekend. Be safe. God bless. Good night.